Hi, welcome to this edition of Health Feed. I'm your host, Katie Wick. Today we're talking about our annual neighborhood cleanup event in the city of Sioux Falls. And with me, I have Dominic Miller, the environmental health manager from the city of Sioux Falls. Welcome, Dominic. Thanks for joining us today to talk about this great event that happens every year in the city. It's called Project Nice and Keep. So it has a long history, but tell us what Project Nice and Keep means if people are unfamiliar with the program.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate being here. It's always a fun project to talk about. So each year we select a couple neighborhoods that we're going to help out. And when I say help out, it means we're going to send in some crews and we're going to remove trash. Okay? Two neighborhoods we typically select. One we designate as a nice neighborhood, and then the other neighborhood we designate as keep. So what does that nice and keep stand for? Nice stands for neighborhood improvement, complaint easement, and keep stands for keep environmental enhancement permanent.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Nice and keep is easier.
There won't be a test.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the history. How did this get started?
Yeah, so we're calling this the 35th year. Now keep in mind, it's a little difficult to keep track because of ice storms and floods and worldwide pandemics. So there was some stops and goes along the way, but we're referring to this as the 35th anniversary of Project Nice Keep. So it's kind of a big one for us. How did it start? So the city of Sioux Falls has a very robust code enforcement program, multiple departments that are involved in code enforcement, including zoning, property maintenance, building services, police, and of course health. And it works. The code enforcement program works well for the city of Sioux Falls. But at some point, 35 years back, there was some discussions about what else? What else could be done to help out, a couple selected neighborhoods each year with some additional help. There's people that don't have access to a pickup or a trailer. Maybe they're not physically capable of loading things into a pickup or a trailer. And so there was some discussions way back then. I've been around a long time, but I wasn't here 35 years ago. But that's my understanding of how it started, is what else could be done to help out neighborhoods outside, but in conjunction with the code enforcement program.
Okay, so you say that there's a couple of neighborhoods that are selected every year. Talk to us a little bit about how those are selected. Is it the same neighborhoods every year?
Yeah.
Do we try and look at maybe where we've had some code enforcement issues? How does that work?
Yeah, this is a really good question. It's a process, as you can imagine. So starting very early in January, I reach out to our civic analytics team and I ask them to produce for me what's called the dot map. And it's a map of the city, and each dot represents a code case from the previous year. I take that dot map and I sit down with my team and we look at clusters of code cases, whether it's a zoning, property maintenance, or a health nuisance case. We study where those clusters are, where there's a lot of attention paid the previous year from the code enforcement team. And also keeping in mind that you're right, we don't want to be back to the same neighborhood each and every year. So we're trying to look at areas. Nice is, technically it's supposed to be a neighborhood that we've never been to before. Now that isn't 100% the case. You can imagine over 35 years, we've called a nice neighborhood a couple times, right? But we're typically trying to look at neighborhoods that we haven't been to for certain, not recently, okay? So we look at the clusters. Also, Civic Analytics, the last couple of years, they've overlaid some other very interesting information onto the dot map. So they've overlaid crime statistics and poverty rates. So taking into consideration where the teams have spent their time in 2024 working code enforcement, but also looking at these other pieces of information, it gives us a better opportunity to look at really which neighborhoods. This is a big project. The city invests a lot of time, a lot of money into this. We want to use our resources wisely. So where, so this additional information the Civic Analytics gave us a couple of years ago has really been interesting to help us choose those neighborhoods.
So you want to make the biggest impact in the right places and using the data to back that up.
Correct.
Okay. So when those neighborhoods, you start back in January trying to figure all of this out and you work through the process, how are people notified?
Yeah, so I'd like to go back just a little bit too on the previous question. So, this is a group effort, right? It isn't by any means just the health department. There's pretty much, I think I can confidently say that there's going to be a representation from every department in the city of Sioux Falls at some point in Project Nice, okay? So when I talked about sitting down with my team, but then we kind of decide where we want the neighborhoods to be. But then I also go down and sit with the street department. There's other departments there as well. And then just, because they're the ones that are going to be doing the majority of the work, the cleanup week, right? They're going to be out there with the equipment operators. They're professionals at knowing how much we can do. They're looking at the neighborhoods we've chosen. Sometimes they say we can do more. Sometimes they say, well, let's move that back a little bit. So it all starts in January, right? Okay. And it's pretty much meeting after meeting, trying to get this fine-tuned until the fun week, which is cleanup week.
Yep.
Now, your question about how's everybody notified of it. Once the neighborhoods have chosen, I go back to Civic Analytics and we look for addresses. Single family residence only, no multifamily, no commercial. Get the list of addresses, including any rental units, and then, of course, the landlords. Information will be mailed to them. This year will be April 4th, is when the packets will go out. And when I say it's a packet, it's an envelope, and it has 4 pieces of information in there. One is just a simple slip in it saying, please don't park on the street during the cleanup week. The crews and the trucks and the equipment operators and the people picking up the piles, we need the room. Please don't park on the street that week. The other one is a flyer. And the flyer it's got the map on there of the neighborhood boundary. There's one for Project Keep and there's one for Project Nice. So it'll have that. It'll have some information on there about the dates and the relevant times. It'll have some information on there about tree trimming. I get that information from the Parks Department. Some trees have to be trimmed 16 feet above street level, some 12, right? So I get that information from Parks. And then there's information on there about how to set your stuff out to help the crews, how to separate, your tires from your cardboard, from your rubbish, from your appliances, right? How to set that stuff out. That helps us move along much more efficiently. And then there's just a few items that we're not going to pick up. So it makes a note on there as well about and when I say just a few, there's literally just a few. The crews are going to take just about anything that you put out there.
So some household hazardous waste, some things, do they take those?
No household hazardous waste, no electronics. Okay. We ask that you take those 2 items down to the drop-off site on North Cliff. Right? Okay. No raw household garbage, no animal waste, and no vehicles.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Other than that, they're going to take it. Yeah. If you can get it out to the curb, they'll take it. Right. A couple other things that are in there is a who to contact list for all the departments. If you have questions about who I would contact for this information or this help, that'll be in there. And then just a letter that just talks about the what and the why.
Okay. So the people who are in the neighborhoods that have been chosen and kind of vetted through will get all of that information by mail.
By mail.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the city departments, who's all helping, and how much they're actually collecting. Okay. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Dr. Lambert with Falls Community Health. I'm here to share a secret. Mental health is just like your Wi-Fi. When it goes out, everything gets messy and you can feel completely disconnected. So if you're feeling like your emotions have taken a holiday without you, it's time to call the pros. Seriously, talking about mental health shouldn't make you sweat like you just ran a marathon. Let's normalize asking for help because even superheroes need sidekicks sometimes. Remember, your mind deserves good TLC. Don't just survive, thrive with your mental health wellness. If you have any questions, contact your doctor or Falls Community Health.
Welcome back. I'm here with Dominic Miller, our Environmental Health Manager from the City of Sioux Falls Health Department. We're talking about Project Nice and Keep, the neighborhood cleanup project that happens every year. And again, here we're going to do it this year, end of April, beginning of May. So we talked a little bit about how this started, kind of who's going to be notified that they're in the group. Talk to us about the city team who participates in this. You alluded to everybody making the decisions up to this point, but who's actually the boots on the ground helping up pick out all of this trash that's on the sidewalk or on the curb?
Yeah.
We don't want it on the sidewalk.
Right, yeah. So we talked a little bit about all the work that leads up to, I refer to it as Go Week, right?
Okay.
That's the fun week. That's the time when people are out, and it's when you talk to the people that participate in it. When I'm talking about people, it's all city staff, right? When you talk to the people that have participated in this year after year, and there's some volunteers that have participated in this for a lot of years, the why about it, and just to hear their stories about why they come out and do this, because it's not easy work. I mean, you're going to put on a lot of miles, and you're going to be picking up a lot of stuff, some of it not so pleasant. Right?
Sometimes it's hot,
sometimes it's
hot, snowing.
Sometimes it's snowing, sometimes, yes, all of that, yes. But it's all city staff, and I think what they've determined is it's just the worthwhileness of the project. They see it. They see what it looks like when they've gone through and removed all the items. There's people that come out of their houses thanking. People come out with cookies, baked cookies, offering them to the crew. It's a lot of fun once you get to Go Week. So who are the people? It's city staff. And there's the volunteers that offer their services to walk the piles. Over 100 a year. 100. I think last year we had like 115 volunteers that came out. That doesn't even include all the equipment operators that are driving the loaders. That doesn't include all the truck drivers that are hauling the stuff out to the landfill. Doesn't include even the environmental team. They're out walking through the piles, driving through the piles, and they're marking all the stuff that has to go down to the household hazardous waste facility. It's a lot. It takes everybody. It really does.
Truly a one-team effort.
Truly a one-team effort.
Yep.
Yes.
It's great. So talk to us about how much they're collecting. Do you have any statistics that we can?
I do.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And this is the fun part, to talk about stuff. It gets a little bit overwhelming when you start to think about all this stuff but I'll share some with you. So these are numbers from last year. Okay. These are very typical type numbers. So total truckloads, right, of the waste and the debris. 235 loads, about 970 tons, okay? Wood waste, tree branches, trees, stumps, that kind of stuff. 20 side dumps of that was hauled away. 985 tires. 57 tons of appliances, and 577 mattresses. Wow. So if you ever question why I have so many mattress stores in town, now you know why. About 600 of them are thrown away every year.
Well, that is a lot of trash and garbage and things people have accumulated or don't work that the city is just getting rid of for free.
Right. And when I look at this as an environmental health manager, when I see all this stuff that is not allowed to accumulate, right, that could sit there and attract pests and rodents and insects, and some of these things can be attractive places for kids to go play in. It's not safe for them to be in that. When I look at these numbers and I see all of that that's removed from these neighborhoods, that's a good thing.
Yeah. It's amazing. A lot of hard work. So to wrap up a little bit, we have the people in the neighborhoods. They've gotten the envelope with their instruction kind of thing. Other people are out driving around seeing stuff on the curbside. What is some general guidance that you want to get out there for the public who sees the trash that we're going to pick up, and we got to get there. Right. But what are some other just general public guidance that you want people to know about?
Yeah, well, they say one man's trash, is another man's treasure. So we discourage that. We really do. We really discourage people going through and picking stuff. I'll be honest, there's some things that people are throwing away that probably have value, right? There's a lot of metal that's thrown away, and there's things that probably could be reused, but the person that's living there, they want it gone. They want it hauled to the landfill. That's why they've set it out there. So we just really encourage or discourage people to not go through those piles. And also, we know that there's also, we get some reports every year that people are coming in and dumping their stuff onto the piles as well. Again, it's nice to know that the stuff's going to be hauled away, but that's not what the project is for.
Right.
People receive their free dump passes every year. Those are for everybody in the city. So we encourage them to use their free dump passes, not to utilize Project Nice and Keep for that.
Okay, and it makes it a little harder on the folks coming back through. If somebody's got the pile ready to go and then you guys show up and it's scattered,
Yes.
It's a little bit difficult on the crew then
yes.
to get that all put back together and then disposed of in the appropriate way.
Excellent point. You've been out there before.
Well, it's an amazing program,
Yeah.
and we really appreciate all of the staff who are volunteering their time, coming in and getting that cleaned up, and they do it in a week's time.
Do it in a week's time.
That's a lot of work
Yes.
in a week.
Yes, it is.
So, all right. Well, we appreciate all the information, Nick. If you have more questions, please go to siouxfalls.gov/health.